Hi, in this video, I want to talk to you about what it has been like to be diagnosed with ADHD at age 49. So in 2025, a little bit less than a year ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD by my doctor. I had been going to the doctor for what I thought were anxiety attacks or panic attacks, and that led me on a process of going to a therapist, and I would end up going there weekly. I went to the therapist for a while and she said she thought I had ADHD and sent me back to the doctor. And in that process, the doctor still didn't really think I had ADHD, but we did some more work together and she did ultimately diagnose me with ADHD. Now, I had suspected that I may have ADHD after watching a video by Mel Robbins years ago. And I would do tests online and like just read different things about people with ADHD. And it was a strong suspicion in my mind and like enough that I would just consider that I had it. But it was very different to actually get a diagnosis. It just felt very different to me. It felt very validating. And there are a lot of things in my life that have improved, felt better, changed a little bit. And I'm sure there will be more to come because I haven't done a lot of work on it. 2025 was a busy year. I was working on some goals that I really want to achieve, and I didn't spend a lot of time like looking into ADHD and how to manage it or work with it. So I'm sure there's more to come, and I'll do another video update at that time. But I did make a few notes, because I might forget being ADHD. Some of the things that have, been really helpful have some of the things that have changed, I guess is a better way to say it, since being diagnosed with ADHD. So the first thing is the legitimacy of knowing that this is something I have. And this is coming from someone who, at some point wasn't sure if ADHD was a real thing. But there are certainly differences in behaviors from one person to another, and our brains work differently. So I fully believe in that. I fully believe that our brains tend to function in different ways, and how we move about in the world is influenced by how those brains function. And understanding yourself better is a way to end up being more productive, less frustrated, and just happier overall. So there's this legitimacy to how I feel, how I behave, what I do. And it's not all random. It's not all just me being stubborn or me being lazy. So these are things that were important to me to start to realize that, there's a reason why I behave the way I do, even though I didn't always understand it myself. So another thing that was something that was just so great about getting this diagnosis was the masking can now stop. I can start dropping this masking behavior where when you have ADHD and you don't realize you have it, you're trying to change yourself or hide your behaviors. Things like, your house may not be clean all the time, and you run around and stuff everything in the closet. I probably will still do that, but at the same time, I don't feel all this guilt and shame around it. I work now to start creating systems where that stuff is going to be permanently organized and or removed. Maybe it's stuff I don't need because like a behavior is to just not deal with it, right? Like it could be mail that's just left and piled and stacked up, and like all kinds of examples that I'm sure you know of if you are a person who has been dealing with ADHD yourself. So now these masking behaviors, these hiding or feeling like, I'm not able to do what other people are able to do more easily, or trying to look organized when I'm not that organized, this is just a beautiful chaos, a beautiful mess. And that's okay. That's just okay. And, not trying to be like other people, not thinking, I have to be or behave or act a certain way because I'm not good enough the way I am. So that, if you're unfamiliar with the masking term, it's like you're wearing a mask, you're being a different person than who you actually are. And that starts to drop away. I think it's probably going to be a years long process because that's a whole lifetime of just trying to, kind of move yourself in ways to fit in to things that, maybe don't come the same to you as they do to other people. So another thing about getting diagnosed is that I got on a low dosage of medication that really, really helped me focus, especially in the beginning. Like I was just really felt like it helped me do things that I couldn't do before, the task initiation. I actually don't use the meds very much at all, but I do have a low dose for days that I want to focus and days that I want to, see what I can get done. Another advantage of being ADHD is that when I'm excited, when I'm moved and motivated, I can get a ton done. So I don't feel like I need to take the meds all the time. Now I'm starting to realize, if I have a couple of weeks of low days and then I have a couple of days of like just super productivity, that's okay. That's how I work. And I get as much done in those 2 days as I would have in 2 weeks. So then I'm just like, during those 2 weeks, I don't need meds to try to make me behave a certain way, even though I'm not against them. I'm not against you using them if like, example to me, I feel like if you have to go to a job every day at 9 to 5 and there is a lot of focus required, I feel like those meds would be super helpful. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm actually just going to do things that don't require a lot of task initiation. Like I am an email marketer. I send an email every day. I don't struggle with the task initiation there. And now that I've been doing YouTube videos every day, I don't struggle with that. So I don't need any extra outside stimulation in order to get those tasks done. So that's the kind of stuff I focus on. And, like I create a bank of videos for YouTube or I batch write my emails so that, when I do get a hyper focus day and there's some other like higher focus requiring activity, then I focus on that. You know, Getting diagnosed at this age, it means there's a whole lifetime of, feeling bad about the behaviors that I had. And so that's something I have to like kind of work on and realize it's a real big relief, right? Like you do feel, relieved to know that there's a reason why you struggled so hard. And I wish I had known earlier, but I know now, right? Like it's not something you can change about the past. But what I decided to do moving forward is start to work how I work best, right? Like start to work with what works best for me, start to play in to that ADHD and start to use it to my advantage. So, I mean, a good example, which is not one I did on purpose, but we have a puppy named Bear who's part of our household. And because task initiation is hard for me, making sure the kitchen is cleaned all the time is hard for me as well. But because he keeps me so busy, basically kind of running around chasing after him, making sure he doesn't get into anything that can hurt him. And, when he's busy playing with a toy, that's when I clean the kitchen. So I'm able to like, work that in my behavior and, the limited time. That was the same sort of thing, I guess, like probably when I had my daughter and like when I wasn't focused on her, I was able to focus on the kitchen or the household tasks. So I'm able to start to recognize those things rather than before it was like, why can't I do things that other people can do? Why is it so hard for me? I'm going to have to push harder to do things the way other people do. And, that's a constant battle. But now it doesn't have to be like that. I can see, okay, I know task initiation is hard, but if I don't get up and I'm usually up actually because like I have him playing with one of his toys or like his treat ball or something, and I'm already up because I'm watching him. And so that's when it's like easy to say, okay, I'm up. I need to do something anyway rather than just stand there watching him. So I do the kitchen work, and that's working in what way works best for me, like finding those little things. And that's just one example, but like starting to recognize what do I do best, how do I do things in the way that works best for me, and then just continuing to do so. So I also made a big revelation in terms of understanding when I am looking to model, other people or start a new business model or work on my business in a certain way, not all of that is suited to my personality, and not all of business advice, like if you're watching YouTube videos with advice, it's not always going to be relevant to me. And it's important to understand that because I used to think, I have a friend who really did well in business, and I used to think I needed to be more like her and follow her advice, but her advice will not ever work that well for me because her personality is so different from mine. She does not have ADHD. She is very like opposite of me. And so for so many years, I didn't recognize that. I didn't realize that. And I'm trying to fit myself into this business advice, or, it could be any kind of advice. It could be just life in general. If other people are doing things a certain way and I want to be doing it that way, I could be trying to make that work for me when it's just really not going to. So recognizing the source and whether or not that fits with me is something that's like been hugely beneficial since being diagnosed. So finally, the final point here is that I really just started to feel like I wasn't just being a failure at so many things that I have been struggling so hard with for so long. And I think, if that were the only thing I got from this diagnosis, that would be incredible. It is so powerful to start to realize you've just been playing by the wrong rules, and it makes the game impossible at that point. It's just like feeling bad about not getting things done that I am just not designed to do in that way. And so that could get dropped. That feeling of constantly pushing something uphill that keeps rolling back down. I don't know, that's not a great analogy, but um just not feeling that way, realizing I've done a lot, which I always realized I've had a lot of successes. And that is despite having ADHD, trying to work in these things. So, what's really exciting moving forward is now working with this diagnosis in order to like just grow even more, just do more things and enjoy life in a way that fits for me. So I would encourage you to go ahead and pursue that with your doctor or your professional if it's something that you think will help you. And these things are the reasons why it's helped me. So I hope that is helpful to you. And I would love to hear from you if you have any comments or thoughts on it, and I'll talk later.